Welcome, everyone. Great for you all to be here. Really looking forward to doing this. This is going to be a 3-part series that we're going to be working with you on to help you to make some progress, hopefully, in your business, in your firm, and in your thinking. And this is exclusively for Sage customers. And it's just great to be working with you and looking forward to that. Whenever I put on a session like this, I'm always interested in how I can help you to make that 1 or 2 degree directional change to ultimately closer towards the destination that you're going. So that's the point of this session. This is not a sales pitch. This is not a demo. I've got nothing to sell you. This is just me helping you to move forward in your business, in your life, and in your thinking, which should be a good thing, guys. So I'm going to start with the story of Icarus. As all good webinars should start with the story of Icarus. So you may remember this from back in school or whenever you last heard it. So the story of Icarus is that he was in a tower, imprisoned in a tower with his father, Daedalus. Don't know why they were there. But they were trying to escape. And his father was an inventor and came up with this idea that they were going to take the feathers from the birds and the wax from the candles, and they were going to make the wings, right? And we all know what happened. Icarus flew out, and before he flew out, his father gave him the warning, which is do not fly too high, okay? And he flew out. He said, do not fly too high, because if you fly too high, you're going to fly too close to the sun, the wax is going to melt, and you're going to fall into the sea and drown. Off he went. We all know the story, and we know what happened. What people don't know is the other part of the story, the other warning that was given to Icarus. And this part of the story has been removed because apparently when the book was published, the powers that be at the time and started to share the message wanted to just use it to prevent people from going above their station, aiming too high. They wanted to keep people down here, right? So that's why this part of the story was removed. That's why not a lot of people know it. But the other part of the warning is really important. His father also said to him, don't fly too low. He said, if you fly too low, what will happen is your wings could touch the water. They could become laden with water, or a wave could come over and again, make the wings too heavy and drag you into the sea as well. So that's the other part of the warning that is so important. And over the last few years, especially, I get to work with many accountants around the world, from top 100 firms right down to startup businesses. And I see so many of them flying too low. They just don't have the margins. They don't have the space for any error. And then all it needs is a wave to come over and it will just take them out or cause them a lot of damage. And I don't mean to be a doomsayer and I don't want to be that guy, but I've seen this happen, especially with the big wave that we had recently of the pandemic. And the only thing that's guaranteed on all of our journey in business is that we're going to get waves continually from now and forevermore. That just happened to be a massive one that blindsided everyone. And the firms that I saw that really struggled with it were the ones that had no margin. They were just flying so close to the water. Their wings were just touching the water, right? And there were some of them who were only making money from advisory services. They'd bought into this myth that compliance is dead, and therefore they didn't dare charge much for it. They were charging what the competitors were charging. And some of them were even using payroll as a loss leader. So those firms that were doing that, what happened was that their clients started to cut back on advisory services. They needed more advice and guidance around their tax position and around compliance. And as we all know, the phone was ringing off the hook with people wanting help about payroll and furlough. Like no one even knew what furlough meant, right? And then all of a sudden, we're all having to kind of train and learn about it and educate our clients on it. So the demand was massive. So what happened was those firms that were not consistently profitable in each single service sector, the margins got squeezed so tight, it caused huge problems. And I know of big firms who had to make redundancies and it caused all these things. The biggest thing for me is if we can grow those margins, if we can aim higher, so many problems start to become solved. Like I say, I get to speak to many firms. I have intimate conversations. People really open their hearts up to me and I get to see really what's going on. And I can nearly trace every problem they face back to the fact that they're not making enough money. If they just made more money, if they just expanded that margin, nearly all of their other problems get solved. If they've got recruitment problems, if they've got staffing issues, it's because they're not able to pay high enough wages. It's because they're not able to pay enough to recruit. It's because they're not able to invest enough in their team. The fact that they have to recruit is because their team are just so stretched and working too hard that they're having to go and, try and fill those gaps with the staff. If they're not getting the customers they want, it's because they're not investing enough in their marketing. And all of this stuff can be traced back to, if you just made more money, if you just expanded that margin, it just relieves so much more pressure, guys. And you deserve to get this. You should get this. And in doing so, it helps you to serve your clients to higher and higher levels as well. Everything I help accounting businesses to do is not just about how can I help you to crank the handle and make as much money as possible, sod the client. I'm all about creating a harmonious relationship and helping you to maximize the value that you give to your clients so that they get everything they need from you. If you don't know my story, I've had a business that's failed in the past. I know of the pain that causes, the pain of having to remortgage your house, of having to wind up a company, of sitting in front of your staff and saying that you can go home now. And one of the reasons that business failed was because we didn't invest enough in the finance function of that business. I had no information to help me to make decisions moving forward. I only had historical data, 18-month-old data in some cases, that was no use to me at all. And by the time I realized where we were and my blindfold was lifted off me, we were on the edge of a cliff and I couldn't pull back out. So everything that I share with you about raising fees is not about, and charging more, it is not about being at the expense of the client. It is genuinely about helping you to serve your clients to higher levels so that we all create win-wins, okay? Over the past 5 years, this is what I've been doing, working with these firms, becoming a student of this and sharing the very best of everything that I'm seeing in the most successful firms with everyone else, understanding it, processing it, and helping people to create strategic plans to move forward. I'm also the director of an accounting business myself. And so I kind of, take my own medicine. And, we have so many breakthroughs in these businesses that we work with in these accountancy firms where they can literally, over the space of 12 months, increase their revenue by 20, 30%, and largely for the same work that they're doing with their existing client base and not bringing many more clients on board. And the moment they're able to do that, they're able to relieve some of those pressures, bring on more staff, work less, pay themselves more, whatever, but it really starts to move things forward. The point of what I'm wanting to do over this masterclass series, if I just move out the way, is I want to help you to make these breakthroughs in your firm. I don't know whereabouts you are. I don't know what challenges you've specifically got now. I can make a guess at a lot of them. And the more you can share with me, the more I'll be able to help you. But what I'm going to take you on is this proven journey that we've taken many, many firms on before to get you this breakthrough in a very short space of time. People think that breakthroughs take time. They don't. Breakthroughs are instant events. Breakthroughs happen when you say enough is enough. We can't do this anymore. Why are we working so hard? Why are we getting such little reward? Why do our clients value us so little? How do we make that breakthrough? So once you've made that decision, the breakthrough itself is instant. Preparing to make the breakthrough, realizing why you need to make the breakthrough, learning how to make the breakthrough is what takes the time, but the breakthrough itself is a very fast event. So what I'm going to try and do is help you to make that breakthrough over the next 30 days. So today we're going to be focusing on mindset. Then next week, we're going to be diving into strategies, proven strategies that other firms have worked with. And then finally, we're going to help you to set a clear plan in place for you to move forward beyond. One of the big parts of everything that I teach is mindset. It's the most important thing, and it's the thing that will hold you back. If you have a proven strategy, if I give you a proven strategy that's going to take you forward, but your mindset isn't aligned with it, you will not make any progression. And the other thing is, depending on the size of your firm, you need your leadership team to be on board with that as well. You need all the partners to be aligned with it, because you only need one or two people who are not aligned with that, and it will hold everything back. One person can be very toxic in an organization that can prevent all that growth. The people I look out for the most, by the way, around that, are the people who say, yeah, but. They're the worst. Like the people who are clearly objectional, you can spot them and you can work with them. But the ones who say, yeah, but, they're the worst ones, because it sounds like they're being positive. Oh, I think we should do this. Yeah, but. but they're not. They're actually pushing back down, and they can be a very heavy load to move forward. So you really need to look out for those people and be prepared to challenge them. So what we're doing is we've put this on exclusively for Sage firms to help you to make those breakthroughs. And this is the journey we're going to be taking you on. And today we're going to be diving really deep into mindset. So please bear with me. It can be quite a deep session and quite challenging. So what I ask of you is to come to this with an open mind. I also ask that you devote your time to this. You spend the rest of your week, the rest of your days committing so much time to your clients, to your team, and to other people. This is time that you're just devoting to yourself. So please turn off notifications and emails. They'll all still be there when you finish this session, but this time is for you. And the thing that I kind of try and encourage is that focus, and for you to devote lots of time to these type of activities, because one of my favorite stories about the two lumberjacks. So there's two lumberjacks, and they chop wood all day long. But one lumberjack every day around lunchtime goes off for an hour break and then comes back. But the guy that goes off for the break at the end of the day has the biggest pile of wood. And this goes on for months and months. And eventually the other lumberjack says, I don't know what's going on here. I work as hard as you, but I work flat out and consistently all day long. But you keep taking this break halfway through the day for an hour, and you end up with more wood than me. How does that happen? He says, I'm not taking a break. I'm sharpening my axe. This time, this hour that you're devoting today, and if you want more from me, if you want more time today as well, we can do that. But this time that you're devoting today, I would consider to be axe sharpening time. This is when you're taking time out of your business to work on your business rather than in it, to sharpen your axe, that when you go back out there, you can start to move through things far easier. So that's what we're going to be doing today, guys. So I've got a question for you that I'd like you to, we can answer this one in the chat, if that's okay. I'm going to be sharing things with you that are going to make so much logical sense, okay? And you guys are very intelligent people, and you are going to understand what I'm going to share with you on an intellectual and logical level. But what we're facing here isn't a logical or intellectual problem. It's a very emotional problem of charging money for your services, right? So I can, if you're, let's say, for example, you've got three clients and you charge three business clients and you charge them £100 a month each. I could make a good guess that that's probably too low. And I'll be able to show you strategies to be able to grow that to £200 a month each, or maybe £300 a month each, quite comfortably, doing nothing weird, in ways that are going to help you to serve your clients to higher levels. So I could show you, let's take three clients on £100 a month each, and let's raise them to £300 a month each. You won't lose all of them. You may lose one on the outside edge, but even let's say on the worst case scenario, you were to lose two of them, you've still got one client paying you £300 a month, which covers the cost of the other two leaving, but now your workload is massively cut by a third, right? So you can look at that scenario and it can make logical sense. But when I then get you to go and do it, it doesn't happen. And I see it time and time again. So my question to you is, what is preventing you? What is preventing you, do you think, from increasing fees? What is preventing you from going to clients and selling more services to them? What is preventing you from getting everyone in your firm doing this and agreeing to this and moving this forward? So what have been some of the objections that you've faced in the past? And again, please just put them in the chat and be as honest and as open as you can, please. This is a safe space. This is a safe space for you all. It's not worth it. It's not, when you mean there, Andrew, do you mean it's not worth the hassle? It's not worth the pain of going through it versus the rewards that you could potentially get? Is that what you mean there, Andrew? Scared of a client leaving when I'm already flying low, with not much room for losing. Great shout. Yeah, I get that. I'm a one-man band or an army of one startup, Larry, an army of one. You're going to rephrase that term now. And so what do you mean by that there, that you feel that you can't charge more because you've only just started up, because you're only a startup, you're not as qualified as someone else, you're too small to be able to charge and command high fees? Is that what you want there? Clients just want the cheapest deal. Clients just want the cheapest deal. Great one, Jordan. How do I justify the increase in fees to my clients when they ask why for the huge increase? Yeah, totally get it. Worry about annoying the clients and getting a bad reputation. Interesting, Billy. A bad reputation for what? for charging more, for wanting to serve them more, for wanting to help them more. I haven't yet as a startup, but I think in most cases, it's just not easy to justify the price compared to the local competitors. The value perception issue from clients. Clients don't see the value. Scared of confrontation, as I've been used to always giving away too much. So scared, and this will be a shock. This is great stuff, guys. Thank you. Thank you for being candid and sharing that. And the more awareness you can have around this and understanding your fears around this, the more I'll be able to help you with this. What I've been, like I say, a real student of is helping you guys to challenge some of those mindsets. And as I do that today, you've got to be really aware of the voice, because you're going to be listening to me at 200 words a minute, but there's a voice in your head talking to you at 1,200 words a minute, and it's constantly chattering. And that's the voice when I share something with you that makes sense, and you're like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. My life would be so much easier if I were to do that. And the voice in your head is going, we will never do that. If I did that, all my clients would leave. That's fine for you up there in Manchester, but we're in rural, whatever. We only deal with farmers. They would never pay any more. All my competitors are really cheap. We'd lose all our clients if we did that. Everyone would hate us. I know these people personally. I built up friendships with them. And that's what the voice in your head is trying to do to get you off the hook. But guys, you need to be aware what's going on with your brain. We need to get into some psychology here. Your brain has one function. Your brain's function is not to make you as successful as possible. Your brain's function is not to give you joy. It's not to give you comfort. It's not to give you money and riches and wealth. It's not to give you freedom. It's not to give you time. That is not what your brain's job is. Your brain's got one job, which is to keep you alive. That's it. It's to protect you and keep you alive. It's millions of years old, this organ. It knows how to do that. And here's the thing, right? We're tribal. It's trying to keep you protected. It's trying to keep you with the tribe, by the fire, with the shelter, where you are safe. That's what it wants to do. And think about this. If you put yourself in that scenario, in that situation, by the fire, with the tribe, and you hear a rustling in the bushes, your brain has learned that it's far easier to tell you that rustling in the bushes could be and is likely to be a saber-toothed tiger, and get you to act accordingly, rather than say, don't worry about it, it's just the wind. The brain has learned that it's better to warn you of a huge potential danger and it not be there than to say it's not there and it be there. If you just think about that, that makes perfect sense. And that's why your brain acts in that way. And that's why your brain will use every trick in the book, everything it can possibly say to you to avoid the danger. So as I'm talking to you about these things here, what you're effectively hearing, guys, is a rustling in the bushes. As I say these things to you as to what we're going to do, increase fees, have different conversations, sell more services, etc., go back to existing clients, raise our prices, you hear a rustling in the bushes. You think it's going to be a tiger's going to jump out at you, and you don't just think that you might lose this client, but lose every client and everyone's going to hate you. I promise you, with the thousands of firms that we have taken on this journey, this has never been the case. No tigers jumped out. No one's lost their business. No one's had any major backlash. It is far smoother than you can possibly imagine. And life is so much better on the other side for everybody, not only for you, but for your clients as well. So guys, let's make sure there's no more questions in the chat. All of the above. This is a good one, Larry. Because my initial clients will be my friends and potential new clients will be coming from word of mouth. My thought was that to be an initial cheaper alternative to the accountant, charging them loads who doesn't really care for them. Yeah. And what I would say there, Larry, and what I'm going to challenge you on there, and I'm going to challenge you with love and kindness, Larry, is that you're not being fair to your clients if you charge them a low fee, because there is no way that you're going to be able to serve them to the level that you would like to serve them to. And those large accountancy firms that don't really care for them, what you actually mean there, Larry, is that the reason why they don't care for them is because they can't afford to devote enough time to them. And the reason they can't afford to devote enough time for them is because they're not charging enough. All of this stuff that we're talking about, guys, all the objections from clients and concerns from clients, it's never about money. It's never a money issue. It's always about how much time you can devote to the client. And that can only come if you charge a proper amount, because ultimately, Larry, especially if you're an army of one now, you're going to need to recruit staff in the future. So if you're charging what is effectively a better wage than you were on before, let's say, that's great for a time. You're going to be loving it and buzzing. And then at some point, you're going to realize that you can't take a holiday. You can never go sick. So you're going to need to bring in a member of staff, but you weren't charging enough in the first place to accommodate those members of staff coming on board. And at that point, service starts to suffer and you end up being the accountancy firm that those clients hate, rather than charging a premium to allow you to deliver a level of service that your clients will be happy to pay for. If you're making notes, guys, that's a really important thing. You've got to be able to charge a high enough price so that the client will be happy to pay it for the service that they're going to get because of that, the price that you're charging. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah. You've got to charge a high enough fee to be able to deliver a level of service that your clients will be happy to pay for. You're able to charge a high enough fee to be able to deliver a level of service that your clients would be happy to pay for. And you all know this yourselves, guys. You have all been places and received crappy services, and maybe you were paying a low fee and you would have willingly paid more to have got a better experience or to have received something better in return. You would have willingly paid more for that service to have been better. Okay. I've got lots of stories I can share with you on this, guys, and I will do. I'll weave these in. But one story that always jumps out with me is a lady called PJ, and she came to work with us with GoProposal a few years ago, and she was really struggling. Her fees were really low, and we showed her these strategies. We showed her how to increase her fees with her clients, and she said all the things that you're saying there. Can't do it, too much of a struggle, worried what the objections are going to be. And after a couple of months, she left us. I can't remember what the excuse was she gave, but she left. Anyway, what happened was a situation got worse, and she got to a point where she was working ridiculous hours. She wasn't spending time with her family, and she was going to struggle to pay her staff. So she came back to us and said, right, now this is a must. It was a should before. It's a must now. Can I come back? And we could, like, of course you can, right? So she came back, and I said, but this time you have to listen and trust what we're telling you. Within 3 days, she'd got everything set up, all of the pricing set up in the system, and she'd arranged a meeting with her top client. And if you understand her challenge, her top client was paying her £120 a month. She went back, she had a very different conversation about everything that she could do for this client, and she'd increased her fees as well. And the price came out at £1,200 a month, literally a 10 times increase in fees. He sat there and he said to her, where have you found the confidence to sit there and present this to me? And she explained. She thought he was going to kick her out of the office. And his next question was, where do I sign and when do we start? And what I always found interesting in that situation was this. We only take actions for one of two reasons, guys, to either avoid pain or to seek pleasure. And because the brain is wired to protect us, the number one driving force in all of us is to avoid pain. So what had happened to start with is the thought of repricing her clients versus the situation she was in terms of working ridiculous hours and not getting paid enough was like this. So the thought of repricing, the pain that she associated with repricing her clients outweighed the pain of her current situation that she was in terms of not being paid enough herself and working too late and not seeing her family, right? In that scenario, you will always act in accordance with avoiding the greatest pain. What then happened was, over the next 3 months, was the pain of her current situation got far worse and rose to here. And now, because this was the greater pain, this was the lesser of the two evils. And so the thought of repricing became far easier. And as we worked with her and educated her and shared with her, this actually massively reduced to be down here. And so it became an absolute no-brainer for her to start working through the rest of her clients. What I always found interesting about this situation was that I don't actually think her situation had changed over those 3 months. I think her situation was always this. I think it was always this here. But when she first came to us, her realization and her awareness of that current situation wasn't there. The next time she came, nothing had happened. Nothing had changed. We were still the same company. A problem was still there. But she'd now got very different awareness of her situation, guys. And that's what then drove her to make that action. And we've got this time and time again. We've got a great guy in Ireland called Kieran Phelan. He shared this. I'm only sharing stories that people have shared publicly. Kieran shared this story of he knew what he should be doing, but he didn't charge enough. And then what happened, he'd got an illness that really changed his perception of life. He's okay now, but at the time, it changed his perception of life. And he thought, what am I doing? Why am I spending more time with my kids? Like, why am I getting paid more money? So his situation had become a lot worse. Within 3 months of him signing up, he had repriced his entire client base. He just went for it. He lost 17% of his clients throughout that process. And in the same time, increased his revenue by 33%. So he's now making 33% more from 17% less clients. One of the clients that left was his cousin. He lives in a small town in Ireland. So he didn't speak to his cousin for a year after that, but he was sticking by his guns, and his cousin left. He was able to pay himself more money, stop working Fridays because he could employ a member of staff at a higher level than he thought he could. A year later, his cousin came back and said, I've made a mistake. I've seen what the competition are really like. Can I come back to you? I'm prepared to pay the higher fee now. He says, you can, but my fees have gone up again. And this is what they are. And he signed up anyway. And sometimes you need that shift in their perception as well to realize how valuable you are. But this was always a very interesting framing up of the situation. Right, guys, what I want to do now is I've developed a model. I've not shared this with many people, but I have developed a model of the problem that I believe is really going on in firms. And I want to share it with you and explain it to you, because I don't think people really understand what's happening. Excuse me. There are two types of problems that we face in our businesses: surface problems and core problems. Surface problems are the ones that present themselves to us. Core problems are what's happening in the foundation of the business. Surface problems are easily visible. Core problems are not. So typically what happens is people apply lotions and potions to surface problems, thinking they're going to go away, and they may go away for some time, but because they've not fundamentally addressed the issue of the core problem, it won't. Because very often the core problem requires a mindset shift and a behavioral change, and that's far more difficult to make. The best analogy I can give of this, guys, is if you imagine someone having some spots and they apply potions and lotions and to try and get rid of them. They don't go, so they get more elaborate and more expensive potions and lotions, and they still don't go. And that's because the fundamental core problem, perhaps, is that this person needs to change their diet, eat healthier, stop eating chocolate, exercise more, get more fresh air, and drink more water, right? But they're behavioral changes. But if they was to make those behavioral changes, the core changes, because of the core problem, it would remove the surface problems. And that's what I see in lots of firms. So I'm just going to share my screen with you guys. So imagine this is your accounting business, and I've just taken a big slice out of it and said, what is the core function of your business? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? The answer I've normally get back is that we want to impact our clients. We want to serve. The reason why we do what we do is we want to serve our clients. We want to help businesses, we want to help families, we want to help people to become wealthier and richer and businesses to be more prosperous. That is what we do. And it's beautiful. The other reason that people give is that they want to create a thriving culture. They want to create a brilliant team. They want to employ great staff and for their firm to be a great place to work. So typically when I speak to people, they're the two things that they would normally say is why they're in business and why they do what they do. If I push them, at some point, they may say that they also want to make money. But it will be a last thing that they put forward. It won't be the core thing. What I want to challenge you all on, guys, today is that those are the three most important things, but they have to be in that order. Making money has to be at the core of what you do for two very good reasons. A business's primary function is to make money. You could have a beautiful reason why, because you want to impact businesses, you want to boost the economy, you want to employ great staff, you want to give to charity, you want to do good in the world. All those things are beautiful, right? But if you don't make money, the business doesn't survive. You could have a terrible reason why, but make loads of money and your business will survive. So the primary function of the business is to make money. That's not your reason why. That's not your motivator. It's not your purpose. All of those things are impact clients, all those other things. But the primary function is to make money. And the other reason why this is really important is because the reason why clients are coming to you in the first place is because they want to make money too. That is what they do, and that is what you help them to do. So to my mind, if you don't do that for yourself, if you don't make that your goal, if you don't effectively get your oxygen mask on first, how can you effectively help those people around you? So that's why this is super, super important to me. Note to self, don't use videos in presentations moving forward. Just use standard slides. Made a note. What happens is if we don't address these core problems, we start to see a range of surface problems. The first problem is that of over-servicing clients. So we end up working too many hours, working too hard, doing more than we promised them. We start to get being underpaid as well. So they're not paying enough. We weren't charging high enough fees. We don't consistently increase fees. And as they get more from us, let's say we're running payroll for more members of staff, we don't constantly increase that fee in line with it either. If you overservice clients and you're getting underpaid, the next knock-on effect is that they start to undervalue you. Now, you would think it goes the other way. You would think if you go above and beyond and do more and don't charge them enough, that they would value you more. In fact, the opposite is true. They start to undervalue you, which is really difficult for us to reconcile in our heads. The reason that happens, and one of the other problems that gets caused, is because we become unsystemized. We don't have a systemized, logical way of solving these issues. If this goes on and we remain unsystemized, as you get more and more staff, each of which want to do things in their own way, the business slowly becomes more and more chaotic. Because what typically firms have, especially multi-partner firms, they think they're working to their strength very often, but they're not. They actually operate as individual businesses sometimes, right? And so what happens is they each operate in their own different ways. Members of staff operate as individuals because of the unsystemization. And then that just leads to more and more chaos. And then for you, if you're the business owners or members of the team or members of the leadership team, what then happens is it leads to overwhelm. Overwhelm unchecked and not stopped becomes depression, becomes great stress, and causes so many more problems down the line. If we actually take the time to dive into this model and dive into what is the fundamental thing that makes us money, is something in the center of the business, which is the value exchange system, which is a fancy name for the sales system. But sometimes people don't like to hear the word sales because they are averse to it. So I call it the value exchange system. Effectively, the way that you make money is from two things. It's from you agreeing the work that you're going to do with your clients in exchange for them paying you an amount of money. That is what the value exchange system is. No value can be exchanged with your clients unless you present it to them, make that promise, and then for them to pay you. So typically what happens is the way the relationship starts with the client is that they start the relationship out with the scope being out of balance. So I might just have to switch to my my trusty whiteboard, my trusty board in a second if it keeps slowing down. Typically, the way the relationship starts is with agreeing more to do for the client than they're actually paying you for. And that is the start of the problem. And going back to someone's comment here, yeah, but I'm just starting up. I want to, give a good impression. So that's why I'm offering extra things. The opposite is true. And you're creating a huge problem for yourself moving forward. And then as the relationship continues, as they want more from you, as they keep asking for things, as their circumstances change, the scope gets more and more out of whack because we don't keep it in check. And then at that point, you think that I'm doing all this extra work, the client's not valuing me, they don't pay us enough. And then you think, I need to get rid of that client. I need to go and find a diamond dream client, when in actual fact, we're creating this problem ourselves in the first place. The reason why this problem happens and the reason why it's especially difficult for the accounting industry is because what you do is complicated. The service that you provide is a complicated service, And clients, by their nature as business owners, are complex beings. So you're providing a complex service to a complicated service to a complex entity, and that's very difficult to do. We don't recalibrate because it's not easy to do. It's not easy to agree the increase in work with the clients in exchange for the fees. It takes time to rescope a client. And especially if you're a partner or a leader in that company or the owner of the company, maybe you're the only person that can actually do it. And because you've not empowered your team, you become the bottleneck, which means it's even harder for you to find the time to do that. So the problem persists. And also, and here's something that people very often don't consider, accounting services are intangible. They're not anything I get hold of. If I go and buy a car today and spend 100 grand on a car, I get to sit in it. I get to feel the leather steering wheel, sit in the seats, rev the engine, hear the sound, drive fast, and it feels good, right? I get to feel the thing I've just bought. If I'm working with you over the next 10 years, I may be spending 100 grand with you. It's the equivalent of a sports car, right? And yeah, I don't get anything in return. You just provide this magical, mythical service. I give you some money, you do your magic, and a tax return gets filed or a member of staff gets paid, but I don't get anything tangible. And that's actually quite a difficult thing for a client. So that's on one half, you got all those problems with the scoping of the work. But on the other side of things, with pricing, typically we have no consistency across our firms. Multi-partner firms, it's even worse. Multi-branch firms, it gets even worse. It's not consistent and there's no underlying system. And if there's no underlying system for how you price, it can't be improving and it can't be evolving. And one of the big reasons, as you've all cited, is this huge fear attached to what happens if I increase my fees. Will we lose the clients? So what we need to do in order to get this situation into balance, where we're maximizing the value of every single client relationship and doing all that we can for them. This is a healthy value exchange system, by the way. We need to change the way that we scope and we need to change the way that we price with our clients. We need sophisticated scoping systems that allow us to very easily, with a menu of services, agree what we're doing with the client. We need to be able to easily recalibrate that moving forward, which means that we need to get the entire team on board with it. It needs to be an instant thing. If it takes anything longer than 3 minutes to agree fees with a client, I promise you, you will never get around to doing it. And we need a way of presenting the very best of everything you can do to your client, do for your client, so that you can maximize the lifetime value of every single client. So that's on one side, that we need to get the scoping right. On the other side of that equation as well, with the pricing, it has to be consistent. We need a consistent method of pricing that's clear and logical. I imagine a logical person. The accounting industry, by its nature, attracts logical thinking people. So there's no point in learning some weird, wonderful sales psychology because you'll never do it. It needs to be instant. You need to be able to get that price instantly. Just like if you went to a restaurant and ordered a meal for the table, you would need to know how much that's going to be. And it needs to empower. You need to empower the team to be able to do this and to be able to empower the clients as well. You know, this is not about you imposing something on the client. This is about you bringing the client on board with you, being clear and transparent and logical in the way that you communicate your fees to the client. And once you can do that and you can bring the scope and price in balance, what happens is all of those surface problems will literally just drop away. And you can start to build an accounting business that is going to give you the things that you want out of this. The reason why you came into this industry in the first place, because I imagine what it is that you want for yourself. What we all want is the same thing. We want joy. We want to be able to enjoy our day. We want to be happy. We want fulfillment from the work that we do. We want freedom to do the things that we want to do with the people we want to do them with, whenever we want to do them. And if you're honest with yourself, you want to be insanely wealthy as well. It's not all about money, but if you have money, it allows you to do lots of the things that you want to do. So to my mind, that's the model that we want to work towards with our business. I know I've just shared a lot of things with you there, guys. Is there anything you want to challenge on that model? Anything you want to ask? Do you want to give me a thumbs up? Do you want to give me a hell yeah? Have I just described what is going on in your business? Does that start to make some more sense, guys? How do we keep scope in check over time? Great question. There's a really good book called The Starfish and the Spider, which talks about two types of organisms, a starfish and a spider. A spider has all the thinking in its head. So if you chop the spider's head off or cut the spider in half, it dies because it has a central nervous system. A starfish, on the other hand, has a radial nervous system, whereby if you cut the starfish in half, each half grows a new half, because every part of that organism knows how the organism runs. It's not in a central place. We need to turn our accounting businesses from spider organizations into starfish organizations by, rather than pushing the information up and then for a decision to come back down, what we should be doing is pushing the power to make decisions down to the people with the information, so that you've got an entire team on board. So when I first started working with my accountancy place in Manchester, at that time, the partner, the owner of the business, was making all these decisions, yet he had 13 members of staff. And it's like, let's push the decision-making ability down to the team and then let them use it. Let them have a system that they can go to their clients with, because they're the ones that's on the phone to them on a day-to-day basis, knowing that they're now processing more bookkeeping transactions for them, knowing that they've got more members of staff that they're running payroll for. So if that member of staff can't easily recalibrate that fee on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis, and you become the bottleneck, or it's only an annual event, what's definitely going to happen is over the year, the scope is just going to get more and more out of whack with what they're paying. Then you get to the end of the year, you feel uncomfortable doing it. So you run over another year and another year. And the longer the problem persists, the worse it gets. And if you ignore it, it just does not go away. It gets worse and worse. And that's why we need to really challenge this as soon as we possibly can. My team tell us when we need to increase the price and be able to get the work and be able to work this out. I get it. Cool. So if not annual, how regular? 6 months or less? As regular as need be. In our firm, we calibrate payroll every month with every client, bookkeeping every 3 months with every client, and then everything else on an annual basis. So that's how we do it. But we're just regularly having conversations. But my analogy is just like if you go to a restaurant, every waiter, every waitress has a menu. And if you want something from anybody, you can request it. They don't have to go into the kitchen and ask the chef to figure out, oh, this guy wants a steak with peppercorn sauce and 20 chips on the side with some salad and this. How much should we charge for it? They've figured that out. Right? They've figured it out. They've given everyone a menu to be able to go and do it. It's a very logical, pain-free decision. You never give a waiter or a waitress grief, because it's not them telling you the price, it's just the price on the menu. It becomes very, very simple. And because they've got a system and a consistent method of charging for that steak, if at some point in the future the price of meat goes up, or they realize that they're putting more time into the cooking of it, so they're not making as much profit on it, because they have a consistent pricing methodology, they can now increase that fee. And now that from that day on, every waiter, every waitress in that restaurant will now charge an extra £3 for that dish, because now that's built the profit margin back in. And if someone wants a side order of fries, they know what to charge for that as well. If you can't create that in your business, then what you've constantly got are people who are dealing with the customers having to come back and ask people who are busy and should be using their time on higher and better activities to figure out what to charge. And because that's such a convoluted process, it won't happen. So not only do you not get, you do the extra work, you don't charge for it, but I also guarantee you've not got it covered in an engagement letter as well. So now not only have you made a promise to do some work and not get paid for it, but your firm is now exposed to the risk of doing that work as well. And for whatever that advice was that you've given. If you've not agreed in an engagement letter, the purpose of that advice, the purpose of this piece of work, and anything were to come back to you in the future and bite you on the backside, I'm not trying to scaremonger, you're probably protected. Your professional body will probably stand by you. Your insurance will probably cover you. But I'll tell you what, you won't be able to avoid the amount of time it would take you to resolve it. When if you just add it in an engagement letter, everything will be hunky-dory. So you've got to be able to arm your team with something that everybody can use. Now, I'm not here to sell you GoProposal. You can all go and check out GoProposal yourself. But that was the fundamental reason why GoProposal was born. Because when I first started working with the firm in Manchester and I went to meet them, they were creating this problem. So I said, look, let's develop a method of having a very sophisticated menu of services with whatever level of complexity we need for every single service. So for example, if you're doing annual accounts for someone and, we need to know what their revenue is, quality of their record keeping, how many years they've been in business, what industry they're in, all them factors can be easily factored into the way that we price very simply. So let's develop a sophisticated way of doing it that can be done in under 3 minutes, that generates a proposal, that generates a fully compliant engagement letter, and that every member of the team can use with minimal training. And that was the birth of GoProposal. That's why we developed it. And like I say, we've got thousands of firms using that around the world. And that was Sage acquired us last year. And now we've brought that into the business. If you're interested in checking out GoProposal, please go and check it out. It will allow you to do everything that I'm describing to you here. If you want to go and use another system or use a combination of Excel and Word and whatever it is you want to do, then good luck with that. You can do that as well. But if you do want to sign up, we've got a special, what do we call it here? We've got a power hour sessions that we're going to have for the next 4 weeks with any Sage firms that come on board, whereby we've got a very intensive onboarding process with you, but we're going to set power hours aside to work with you to really accelerate through this fast if you want to. So if that's of interest, go and check it out and just make yourself known that you're part of this group, and they'll work with you on that. And if not, like I say, it's absolutely fine. You don't need to. You'll be able to benefit from everything that I'm sharing with you as well. Michael, to the menu analogy, the thing I'm finding difficult to get my head around is that you could have a VAT registration for a new company with a low annual turnover versus a property development company that has yet really any activity. How do you factor in all the potential value you're offering? I hope that makes sense. Great question, Michael. There is always a way. There is always a way, however complex, that you can decipher that. So exactly. So you could have a VAT registration service that actually uses their annual revenue to make that VAT service higher or lower. And that's exactly how we price it in GoProposal. And another one is you could also have an industry in there. So you could potentially have a factor in there that is for the property developer, specifically for property developers, if that's your niche. And then you could have what size of your property portfolio there is. There's always a way, there's always a logic that can be figured out and deciphered and decoded and get out of your head. Because if you're figuring this price out, Michael, all you're doing is going through a process. But while ever it's in your head, you're preventing your team from being able to use it. You're always the bottleneck and you don't have anything to improve. That's one of the big reasons why I love creating a system, is because the moment you commit a system to paper or to an Excel spreadsheet or to GoProposal or whatever, you've now got something that can be incrementally getting better. Fundamentally, pricing is never fixed. This is an important point to note, guys. Pricing is never solved. Pricing is only ever tuned. Pricing is something we're always improving. Version 1 is better than version none, then version 1.1, 1.2. But we have to first commit to a system, decode it, decipher it, and then have something that we can work on. So as you encounter a different client and you realize we've not thought this through, we've not thought that through, then that then goes into the system. If you haven't solved that, the effectively that value exchange system that balances the scope and price at the core of your business, you're always going to be suffering. It will always be a problem for you. So great question. Great questions, Michael. Looking at a value pricing point of view, we'll come on to value pricing later on. We invoice on a time basis. What would you say is the best way that you would create a service or certain services? We've got to move away from time, Chelsea. We can't charge on time. Your clients don't value time. They value speed more than time. So if something takes you longer to do, I don't see that any more value in that. So let's say it takes you however many hours to prepare my management accounts. I would much rather have them done quicker. I would see more value in having them at the start of the month using my board meeting than them taking you longer and being at the end of the meeting. So we have to figure ways out of getting away from time. So for example, let's say you're doing bookkeeping for a client, you want to charge based on the number of transactions that you're processing for a client rather than the amount of time it takes you. Because if you don't do that, there is no incentive for you to improve efficiencies, to bring in technology to speed that process up. Because if you did that, you'd be cutting your own throat. So again, you need to develop pricing methodologies that enable you to be able to do that instantly with a client. Let me just show you this, guys, to see if this just gives you some clarity, because all your questions, they're great questions, by the way, but it may just give you some, may just make it a bit more clearer for you. So again, I'm just using GoProposal as an example, guys. But here, all of these factors that you're talking about, so for example, what is their revenue is a factor here. And then you would go through and put the services in. So you would charge based on the number of items that you're reconciling, you know, how many staff they've got, etc. You would go and put all these items in rather than charge on time. For annual accounts, one of the factors here that's determining that fee is actually based on this revenue range there. So that is what you would need to do. If I just go behind the scenes, sorry. If I just go behind the scenes and show you how that's working. So for example, just so you can understand what's actually happening on the front end here. Annual accounts. Pricing. So what you've got here is all of these revenue ranges that are actually going up. The more that their revenue is, the more that you would charge for that. But then you've got all other factors in here as well, such as what is the quality of their record keeping, what is their business type. So all of these type of questions, guys, you can layer this up, and you can layer it up with whatever level of complexity you want. You could put another factor in there if you wanted to, for example, the property company question. But then as you're going through this, and again, use this or don't use it, that's up to you guys, but whatever you use, you need that ability to be able to charge on that consistent methodology that has all this logic in VAT returns, confirmation set, whatever it is that you want as you're going through this, and the ability to get to the end of that process and to be able to present a monthly fee there and then with a client, and to be able to discuss it with them. And if that's too much, not a problem. What do you want to take out? There is no stress. There should be no stress in this process. So if they want to do VAT returns themselves, that's fine. But this is what we actually do for VAT returns. But let me put it on your roadmap to consider in the future. And then let's recalculate and get to a fee that you're actually happy with and that we can move forward with. So that was our premise that we wanted to be able to do, to have the sophistication, to be able to agree the scope with the client, to have some logic in there for prices, knowing that it's never going to be fixed. But if we learn something about that, we can go in there and adjust the fee at some point in the future. And then what we can do is we can get every member of the team using it. So that was where this came out of, guys. That was the criteria that we set for our own firm. And that was that's what we created this for. It was only ever built for one firm to start with. And it was only because other accountancy businesses learned about what we'd done that they wanted it, and why we scaled it and rolled it out. So that kind of sums up and hopefully captures what I'm sharing with you there. I'm conscious of time. I'm gonna be respectful of your time as well. So if you do have to shoot, I appreciate that. But I'm staying here. I'm going to stay here for another half an hour because I want to work through any of these challenges and questions and make sure that you're getting everything that you want from this. But I've not been able to get through everything I wanted to share with you on this session. So we'll have to move some over to the next session. But one of the key things, guys, is I always ask this when we're doing a session like this: what's the big thing that you think you need to change? Off the back of today, off the back of what we've gone through today, what do you believe? Can you write this down? I'm not going to ask you to share it. This is just for you. What is the big thing, maybe a tough thing, that you think you need to change? But if you did, you know that in 90 days or 6 months' time or a year's time would actually put you in a far stronger position than you are now. What do you believe that big thing is? And then secondly, what's the small decision that you could make right now that would make the next 30 days better? It may be that you've got one client that's just, costing you a lot, actually money to serve, and you need to go and have a different conversation with them. It might be that you need to train a member of staff in how to price and sell your services. Whatever that one thing is. So what's the one big thing, the tough decision that you would need to make that's going to make a long-term success for you? And what's the small decision, the easy decision that you can make right now that you know is going to start alleviating some of these pressures and get you moving forward over the next 30 days? If you can just spend a couple of minutes writing that down, guys. And whenever we do sessions like this, hopefully you found this at least motivational, because we're talking about moving forward and making progression. And me personally, whenever I think about progress, I find that uplifting, because, when we feel the most fulfilled is when we're thinking about progression. While you're in this state of mind, take a step towards it. So if one of the things that you've identified is that you need to get a member of staff on board, put a meeting in the diary now. Go and do that meeting now, because at least you've taken the first step towards it. If you know you need to go and have a conversation with a client, the difficult one, that you need to increase fees, that you don't even care if you lose them, then message that client now and say, hey, we need to get a date in the diary. When's good? It's the only other homework I'm going to set you guys. If you've not read my book, Selling to Serve, please go and get it. It will work. As we go through these sections here, mindset, strategy, and plan, this will be giving you more information on everything I'm sharing with you. It will give you more on mindset. So all I would ask you to do is get the book and work on the mindset section, which is the first third, and that will really help us as we go through this. It'll be a really good companion as we move through these next 3 weeks together, because between now and next week, it'll be filling in some of the gaps. That will make you a massive, massive breakthrough. You can go on Amazon and go and get it. If you do sign up for a trial of GoProposal, you don't have to buy it, because my team will stick a copy in the post here. So you can go and grab that. But I promise that would be a really good investment of your time. I don't know if anyone on here has read it and wants to show any feedback on that, but hopefully that will really help you. Larry's got to leave. He's got a lunch hour, but will there be a next webinar? You'll be here for the next webinar. That's fantastic. Find it very informative. That's great. Great book. Great read. Thank you. Kainia. Am I pronouncing your name right? Probably not. I apologize for that. Lots of light bulb moments in the book. Read it. Worth its weight in gold. Thank you. Question here from Jordan Smith. Going back to getting staff on board with reviewing fees, improving clients, etc. How do you get your most reluctant staff on board, and how does that benefit the staff member? Brilliant questions. So to start with, Jordan, I wouldn't start by getting my most reluctant staff member on board. I would get my member of staff on board that is chomping at the bit to do this. So, sometimes you as a firm owner or as a manager or whatever your role is, Jordan, can feel quite nervous about going back to increase fees. But sometimes clients are like, your staff can be, get out of my way, let me go for it. So you want to try and find those members of staff that are prepared to do that. Give them a system that they can obviously feel comfortable in going and using, and get them to report back the successes of having, those repricing conversations. And like I say, don't stress it at this moment, guys, if you don't know how you're going to go and do that. If you don't know how those conversations are going to play out, if you're nervous about what the objections are going to be, I'm going to help you with all that. By the time you get to the end of these 3 weeks, you are going to be armed with everything that you're going to need. You're going to feel comfortable arranging those meetings. You're going to be comfortable presenting fees, discussing far higher levels of services with your clients than you have ever discussed with them before. You're going to feel comfortable handling all of those objections. You're not going to be concerned, because you're going to know why you're doing this, guys, and what the changes it's going to be. And one of the big things I'm going to help you to do is to set the bar low. We need to set the bar low, because the important thing here is that we actually gain momentum. But the most important thing is that we start. I'm here, my office is here at Doncaster Airport. If a plane was to take off from here and fly to wherever it's going to be, Spain or wherever, it uses the most fuel to get off the runway. It uses more fuel to get off the runway and get in the air and get to the right height than it does to get all the way to the destination. And the other thing is it flies into the wind. It flies into the headwind to be able to build height quick. This is what I encourage people to do. We've got to fly into the wind. We've got to fly into the problem, and we've just got to get that momentum to get off the ground. So maybe you've got a client who's paying you 37 quid a month, right? And you want to increase that fee to £48 a month. I'll take it. It's a win. It's a step forward in the right direction, because then what that will do is it will help me to take the £57 a month client and feel confident to get them to £83 a month. And then the £100 a month client to £146 a month. And all we need to do is feel comfortable in that. I am not going to ask any of you to go outside of your comfort zone and go and have that 10x fee with a client, that 10x conversation. I'm not going to ask you to go and triple clients' fees. All I'm telling you those stories about is to know what is possible and what is further down the line. But where we're going to start, guys, in this entire journey is with things that you feel totally comfortable with. That might be a new client. It might be an existing client. It might be a £12 a month increase in fees. I don't care what it is, but wherever we start, the bar will be low and you'll feel comfortable. So back to you, Jordan, when we start this journey and you want to get your staff on board, don't make this difficult. Don't go and find the reluctant members of staff. Go and get the easy members of staff. Sack the difficult members of staff. That's what you need to do with them, Jordan. I'm only joking. I'm not really. Sorry, not sorry. But with the championing members of staff, they're the ones you need to get on board because then we can move them forward. Karina, Kanya, I'm going to message you afterwards. You have to tell me how to pronounce your name. I apologize so much for, and maybe it's really obvious. I apologize for pronouncing your name wrong. Hi, James. Thank you for sharing your experience. What could you advise for a startup accounting firm pricing strategy who's not ready to go on GoProposal yet? Do this for me, Kanya. Sign up for GoProposal, right? You don't have to put your card details in. Team are brilliant, and cancelling is dead easy. I hate signing up for something that you can't get out of. Go and do that. It builds all of the pricing for you. It will just ask you 3 questions about 3 services that will take you 60 seconds to answer. And off the back of that, it will build out a full pricing matrix with all of those services, all of the descriptors, all of the service schedules, all built in for you. And you don't have to pay a penny for it. You can then go and use that. And what I would encourage you to do is go and do that. Then go and pull out some existing proposals that you've got for existing clients, run them through GoProposal and see how far out you are with what we're suggesting. You can always tweak the fees. If you then want to go and use it, it's free for 30 days. You can go and try it with existing clients, or, and here's the thing that not a lot of people know, you can just go and export all of the pricing out of the system, steal it and run off with it and go and use it yourself in an Excel spreadsheet with Word documents or whatever you want. So if you just let us help you with something, at least let us help you to build that pricing matrix out to start with and take it. And then when you're ready to use GoProposal, come back to us if that's something that you want to do. But at least let us help you to build out that pricing matrix to start with, because it will not cost you a single penny. But what we will do is work with you in the first 30 days to get you to go and reprice a client or 2 to cover the cost of GoProposal. So don't look at this as a cost. Look at it as, how can I get this working for me and be a free product? And then how can I turn it from being a cost center into a profit center? Because all this has to do is get you to increase fees 20%, 30% more than you would do without it. And once you're 3 clients in, it's paying for itself. So let's stop. Don't worry about what it's going to cost you and start thinking about what it can make you. Okay. And that's not some sales pitch. That is the truth and the reality of what happens. So at the very least, let us help you build your pricing matrix out and go and steal it. That's what I would say, even if you're not ready to use GoProposal yet. Kerry Osborne has been patiently having your hand up. It says allow to talk, Kerry. So I'm going to press this button next to your name. Talking permitted. I think you can unmute yourself now, Kerry, if you actually want to talk and ask a question. I think if you dare do that.
Hi, my name's Bahir. Jack was kind enough to send me a link. Now,
hey, Bahir, how you doing?
Really well. I really like your idea of now go and do next actions.
Yes.
You said write something down that's small, that's manageable in the next month.
Yes.
And then drop that in the diary and then go and do it. So whilst you're talking away, I'm just ordering the selling to serve, because I gave away the last one to a client. I listened to it on audio.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be mega useful, reading it alongside the session.
Yes, that's brilliant. And do you have team members as well, Bahir?
Yeah, I'm putting that session in that. I'm putting that email, because one of my team members, both my team members have looked and used GoProposal, but I've never really trained it to them.
Yeah.
So the idea of the 1 month, 3 month, I know that some of my clients are going out of scope because it's not the payroll's not being reviewed every month.
Yes.
And the bookkeeping's not being reviewed every 3 months. It's just being done yearly.
Yes.
And I recently lost a client because he'd gone so far out of scope because we'd left it a year and it was double the fee and it was too much for him.
Yes.
So that's another action I'm going to put in. So thanks for that pointer.
That's great. And on that one, Bahir, you can use the book to train your team as well, even if you just get them to work on the mindset piece. And we have a few firms that do it as a book club. So it's just free staff training. So effectively, you get all your team to read it. And then every week or every 2 weeks, whatever you want to do, you get them to come together for an hour, half an hour, and to then review what they've learned and what actions are they going to take off the back of it. So it becomes a really nice training device for you.
So thanks. Looking forward to next session.
That's cool. Anything else, Bahia?
No, I'm going to see if anyone else wants to chip in.
Well, that's brilliant. I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you, my friend. So guys, you've all got your action points. What is your big decision? What is your small decision? And you've identified one thing that you can do to take a step closer towards that. I would encourage you within the next 5 minutes to have at least taken a step. So as Bahir's done there, what one small decision can you make? Well, I can go and get the book. What step have you taken I can do a training session with my team on the book. I can read the book. What step can I take towards it? Order the book, right? It's a simple step and it's dead easy to take. But you know what? And this is the important thing, guys. It starts the momentum. What I want to be helping you to do over these next 3 and 4 weeks is to start building that momentum up to get off that runway so that by the time we part company, you're absolutely flying and have a far better chance of getting you to where you want to be. Just one thing I want to say to you, Bahia, you don't need to train your team in how to use GoProposal. Get my team to train your team in how to use GoProposal. You should not struggle with that. Just message someone in the chat and they'll get your team on the next Kickstart session and they'll train with them and work with them and they can get on as many of those Kickstart sessions as you want, Bahia. So let us do that for you, please. I want to share a positive outcome of a recent price restructure I did for my clients, all of which were increased. I received a phone call after which from one of them to thank me for increasing my prices as it had encouraged her to review hers within her business. Win-win. Absolutely, Sophie. What a beautiful story. Can I just unmute you, Sophie, if you dare? Dare you just come on and...
Yep. Can you hear me?
Hey, Sophie. Yeah, got you. So just tell me about that then. Just tell me about that feedback.
So at first I was very, very daunted. I think I'd spoke to yourself previously and I'd contacted everybody, bit the bullet, and I give them a call first. Individually, I rang all my clients and she was really quiet on the phone. So I was thinking, oh, no, she's going to walk away, and she was brilliant. She actually phoned me afterwards to say, I'm sorry about that. I was in the garage getting my tyre redone. I couldn't really talk, but I just wanted to say, you're worth your weight in gold. I'm happy to pay what you're increasing to. And to be honest, thank you, because you've actually made me take a step back and think, do you know what? I'm going to do exactly the same. I need to review my prices. Yeah. And yeah, she was really, really positive. It's one of those things you always think it's going to be a really scary moment and people are going to be like, oh my God, no, I'm leaving you. So this was one of those moments that made me take a step back and think, wow, this is brilliant. It's really what I'm doing is impacting my clients.
Yeah, I love it,
well.
Sophie.
So it was great feedback, and I just thought it would be useful for people to know that there are positive outcomes. Yeah, that are just for them as well, not just your own business, but for them it influences them. So it was great.
Absolutely. What I love about that is the client went silent, and what happens is when you present fees to a client or increase fees, they go quiet, and you think it means something, right? It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah,
they're just either processing it or they're getting the tire fitted in the garage, right? It doesn't mean anything at all. Let them go through it. And you've done it because you want to serve them and you want to help them. It's the kindest thing you can do to them. And like I said before, with that model, like you making money, you're a commercial business. You being profitable, you being successful is the thing that they're aspiring to be as well. I always, when I've had accountants in the past, I know this is what's the word? I don't know. Anyway, I'll figure it out. But I always look at what car they're driving. I want my accountant to drive a nice car. Because I always think, if you can't get a nice car, how can you help me to drive a nice car? Because I want to drive a nice car. So, yeah. Shallow was the word. It might be shallow of me to look at that. But I always think it's important. I want to see a successful accountant. It gives me courage. It gives me confidence when I see an accountant charging more. I was with my previous accountant and they were charging me 200 quid a month and trying to get me to spend 250 quid a month. When I first met my accounting place, they got me spending 550 pounds a month. And then over the next 5 years, I went from 550 pounds a month to over $5,000 a month with them, right? And absolutely loving the value, because it got me to the point where I could sell my business. If I'd not been investing at that level into my finance function, into my company, I would have never got to a point to sell it. Like, if you've got any clients that may ever want to consider selling their business and they currently don't have monthly management accounts, How on earth can they ever sell their business? You've got to help them to buy these services off you. Otherwise, you're not being fair to them.
Exactly. It's explaining to them that it is an investment.
Yes.
Having somebody is an investment. It's not a cost, it's an investment. And I'm grateful that, thankfully, all of my clients, every single one of them are increased and every single one of them have stayed and they're happy.
Yeah, that's great. And that thing, when I think someone commented earlier saying, yeah, but what about, your competitors charging low fees? If a client came to me, say I'm running the accountancy business, and someone came to me and says, and I presented my fees, and I've shown them everything that we can do for them. It's going to be 500 quid a month. And they said, yeah, well, I don't need all the other accountants. And he said, I need this and this, and they're going to charge 200 quid a month. And this one is going to charge 300 quid a month. And what I would say to that is, yeah, and I will not allow you to underinvest in the most important function of your business. It is that money is the lifeblood of your business. And if you're serious about keeping it and growing your company, and you want to work with the right partner to help you to do that, I'm not being fair to you if I allow you to underinvest by not taking the services that you need. And I'm also not being fair to you if I don't charge you a fee that's high enough to allow me to deliver that level of service to you at the level you're happy to pay for. And the reason why you're sat here with me now is because you are unhappy with your current accountant. And I can tell you the reason that is because they're not giving you everything that you need and they're not charging you enough. And not only that, I'm going to help you to do the same with your clients. Who do you want to work with? Your shout. It's a very different way of looking at it. Thank you for sharing that, Sophie. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Guys, anyone else want to raise it? Billy, I always say this. You would never have a fat personal trainer. Same with an accountant. You have to practice what you preach. Great story, Sophie. Thank you, Billy. Thanks for your time, James. Have a good day, everyone. Guys, let's wrap it up there. I'm respectful of everyone's time, but every week I will allow it to overrun because I just want to kind of give you everything that you need. You can go and follow me on LinkedIn. You can message me anytime you want. I'll do anything I can to help you within my power. My team are there to help you as well, if that's useful for you. The next session we're going to be working on, I don't know why I was looking behind me, but it's going to be on the strategy. So it's great that we're starting to see this and imagine that this is possible for you. Don't leave this worrying about how we're going to do it. I've got you covered there as well. So next session, guys, we're going to be working on a bit more mindset, but really starting to delve into the strategy as to how we're actually going to start to get the rubber to hit the road and move forward in a way that you feel comfortable and in a way that your clients are going to be happy with you and still be your friends. Thank you, Chelsea, Kerry. Thanks, James. Been enlightening. I am away on the date for the next meeting. Okay. I thought you said I read that as I'm away on a date, and I thought you just have to cancel the date. Kerry, but that's fine. If you're away on the date, that's absolutely fine. It will be recorded and I'll share it with you. So thank you, everyone. Take those steps towards your first actions. I look forward to speaking to you next week.